Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring Portugal, a country that, well, it might seem familiar on the surface, but its history holds some truly surprising secrets. Its impact has really rippled across the globe in ways you might not expect. Our mission, really, is to uncover those profound connections and challenge maybe some common perceptions about this small but actually incredibly influential nation.
It's so true. History isn't just about the major players, the big empires we always hear about.
Right.
Often the most profound, unexpected influences come from nations we might overlook. And this deep dive, I think, will really show how much Portugal has shaped our world in ways we really rarely realize.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Something remarkable about Portugal's foundations. When you think oldest country in Europe, what comes to mind? England? France, maybe?
Yeah, those are the usual suspects.
Well, prepare to be surprised. Portugal actually holds the distinction of being Europe's oldest continuously defined nation-state. It's got this remarkable stability that really stands out in all that chaos of medieval Europe.
Yeah, the key detail here is that Portugal officially became a nation-state way back in 1139. That's when Afonso Henriques declared himself king.
1139, wow.
And what's even more striking, I think, is that unlike so many medieval kingdoms constantly redrawing their maps, Portugal's borders, well, they were definitively set by the Treaty of Alcanizes in 1297.
Okay.
And they've remained essentially unchanged for over 700 years.
700 years?
Yeah, put that in perspective. England and Scotland, still separate kingdoms for centuries after this. Germany, Italy, they wouldn't even exist as unified nations for another, 600 years?
So Portugal's longevity is really something else.
It really is unique. There's even, a little bit of historical mystery around Afonso Henriques' exact parentage, but his achievement as the founder, undeniable.
That longevity, it's truly fascinating. What do you think were the key factors? Like, how did they manage to keep those borders so stable when the rest of Europe was just constant flux?
Well, it's a complex mix, definitely. Geography played a big part. You've got the Atlantic on one side, strong natural borders on the other. And early on, they also focused their expansion outward, across the seas. They weren't constantly fighting neighbors for bits of land on the continent.
Oh, okay.
That really helped foster a distinct national identity, a sort of sense of purpose beyond just Europe.
It's incredible how that spirit, that global reach you mentioned, which was clear even in their early stability, how that pops up again, shaping something as everyday as Lisbon streets. But before we get to the streets, let's jump somewhere totally unexpected.
Oh, yeah.
Japan's iconic tempura. It actually has Portuguese roots. Can you believe that?
It's a fantastic example of cultural exchange, isn't it?
Yeah.
The story starts in 1543. Portuguese merchants land on this Japanese island, Tanegashima.
Right.
Among the many things they shared, one had these, delicious consequences. Jesuit missionaries over in Nagasaki, during Lent, they couldn't eat meat.
Of course, Lent.
Exactly. So they adapted a dish they knew, frying vegetables and seafood in a really light batter. They called it peixinhos da horta, which literally means little fish from the garden.
Huh. Little fish from the garden. I like that.
And the Japanese were apparently intrigued. They adopted the technique, refined it with their own flair, their own ingredients, and called it tempura.
Okay, so where does tempura come from?
It actually comes from the Latin ad tempora quadrasime, which means in the time of Lent.
No way. So the name itself points right back to its Portuguese religious origins.
Exactly.
And it's really amazing. You can still walk into a traditional restaurant in Portugal today and order peixinhos da horta.
You absolutely can.
And it looks remarkably similar to its famous Japanese descendant. It's like finding a living culinary fossil.
That's a great way to put it.
So from food history, let's shift gears to literary history. In Lisbon, there's this cultural landmark, the Bertrand Bookshop. It actually holds the Guinness World Record as the world's oldest operating bookshop.
Bertrand, yes. It opened way back in 1732, founded by Pedro Ferri. And its resilience is just incredible.
How did it survive?
Well, think about it. It survived the devastating 1755 earthquake that basically flattened Lisbon.
The big one.
It outlasted Napoleonic invasions, civil wars, even 2 dictatorships in the 20th century.
Wow.
And this wasn't just a shop. It was a crucial gathering spot for intellectuals. People like the famous writer Essa de Queiroz, part of the generation of the 70s, they'd hang out in the back rooms debating literature, politics.
A real hub.
Absolutely. There's also a rather poignant, tragic story tied to it. Jose Fontana, a bookseller who ran the shop for a time, he actually took his own life inside the shop in 1876. Reports say he was ravaged by tuberculosis and, well, political disappointments.
That's a fascinating paradox, though, isn't it? A world record for the oldest bookshop, but Portugal historically had some of the higher illiteracy rates in Europe. It really highlights a complex relationship with knowledge, right? What does that tell you about the value of places like Bertrand, even in a society facing those challenges?
I think it shows just how vital these cultural hubs are. Maybe not for everyone at the time, but for preserving intellectual life, national identity, especially through upheaval. They become these sorts of beacons of continuity, even if it's for a smaller group initially.
Beacons of continuity, I like that. Okay, speaking of continuity, let's go from books to the very ground you walk on. This next story is genuinely bizarre, but really impactful.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
A rhinoceros named Ganga actually shaped the streets of Lisbon and beyond.
Ah, Gunga the rhino, yes. So in 1514, this white rhinoceros, Ganga, arrives in Lisbon from India. First living rhino seen in Europe since Roman times. Huge deal.
Right, must have been quite a sight.
Absolutely. And King Manuel I, he wanted to show off Portugal's colonial might, impress the Pope.
Yeah.
So he decides he's going to parade Ganga through Lisbon. But there was a practical problem. It's January in Lisbon. The streets are muddy. And the king, well, he didn't want his magnificent exotic beast getting all dirty.
Huh. Vanity. Even for a rhino parade.
Sort of. This peculiar concern actually led to royal decrees, one in 1498 and another in 1500, basically ordering the paving of Lisbon's main streets with stones.
To keep the rhino clean.
To facilitate the parade and, yes, keep things presentable. This created the distinctive calçada portuguesa, those beautiful, intricate, black and white cobblestone patterns you still see everywhere today.
So those patterns exist because of a rhino and some mud?
In large part, yes. That event was the major catalyst for the widespread paving in that style. Sadly, poor Ganga never made it to Rome to see the Pope.
Oh no, what happened?
Her ship sank in a storm off the coast of Italy and she drowned.
Oh, that's tragic. But her legacy, it lives on literally underfoot.
Exactly. Millions of people walk on these unique cobblestones, Lisbon, Rio de Janeiro, Macau, Maputo, all over the former Portuguese Empire.
And they have no idea it goes back to a king worrying about a muddy rhino.
Probably not. It's incredible how a single, almost comical event can have such a tangible, widespread impact across centuries and continents.
It really is. It just shows, doesn't it? The biggest historical changes can have the most unexpected, almost mundane starting points.
Absolutely.
Okay, so from tangible cobblestones, let's explore how these profound historical events, even royal tragedies, get etched into the daily language of Portugal. Language really does preserve history in ways we don't often think about.
Oh, it's one of the most intimate ways history survives, absolutely. Take the phrase, Maria vai com as outras. It means Maria goes with the others.
Okay, what does that imply?
It's used to describe someone who just mindlessly follows the crowd, doesn't think for themselves.
Okay, and the origin?
It's actually quite heartbreaking. It refers to Queen Maria I, who tragically descended into madness in the late 18th century. People would whisper this phrase when they saw her out, always being guided by her ladies-in-waiting, never making decisions.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is. Then there's Reve Campo de Urique. That means something like just scraping by or barely avoiding disaster.
Okay.
This comes directly from that devastating 1755 Lisbon earthquake we mentioned. The destruction was immense, but it stopped, like right on the edge of the Campo de Urique neighborhood.
So that neighborhood just survived?
Exactly. It famously survived intact. Resde. Right on the edge.
Incredible. Any others?
Oh, yeah. Perhaps the most poignant is Ficar a ver navios, to be left watching ships.
Waiting for something that never comes.
Precisely. Its first layer of meaning comes from King Sebastian. He mysteriously disappeared in a battle in Morocco in 1578. For years, people would gather on Lisbon's hills watching the horizon, hoping each arriving ship might bring their lost king home.
Oh, sad.
But then the expression got reinforced in 1807. Napoleon's troops were marching on Lisbon. Just as they arrived, the entire Portuguese royal family and court were sailing away to Brazil.
They literally left the French standing there watching the ships disappear.
Exactly,
Yeah.
leaving them at ver navios. So the phrase carries centuries of waiting, loss, and perhaps missed opportunities.
Each of those phrases holds so much national memory. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What everyday phrases we use now might become these kinds of historical markers centuries from now, puts our own time in a new light.
It really does.
Okay, from language, let's maybe unveil the Portuguese origin of what is arguably Britain's most famous cultural tradition.
Uh-oh. What are you going to tell me?
Tea time.
Ah, yes. Catherine of Braganza.
Exactly. So, 1662, Catherine of Braganza, a Portuguese princess, marries Charles II of England.
Right, a major diplomatic marriage.
And part of her very large dowry included these wooden crates marked with 3 letters, TEA.
Which stood for Transporte de Ervas Aromáticas.
Transport of aromatic herbs. Now, the British knew about tea, right? But they mostly saw it as, what, medicinal? Bit of a novelty?
Pretty much, yeah. It wasn't a social ritual. But Catherine, she brought with her the established Portuguese court ritual of tea drinking. This was something they'd picked up from their colonies in Asia.
So it wasn't just the drink, it was the whole ceremony.
Exactly. The delicate porcelain cups,
Yeah.
the specific times a day for drinking it, the social protocols around it. It was a whole refined custom. And the British aristocrats, naturally, were eager to emulate their new sophisticated queen.
So they copied the Portuguese court's tea habits.
They absolutely did. And it caught on like wildfire in aristocratic circles.
And today, I mean, tea time is seen as quintessentially British. People flock to London for afternoon tea. And Catherine of Braganza, the Portuguese princess who actually brought the whole ritual over, often completely forgotten in that story.
Completely erased, often. It's a really striking example of how origins can just get completely obscured when something gets adopted and becomes massively popular elsewhere.
Definitely. Okay, now for something really unique. The incredible story of a country that existed,
Right.
basically by not existing, for 800 years.
You must mean Couto Misto.
Couto Misto, the accidental nation. Tell us about it.
It's such a fascinating anomaly.
Hmm.
Couto Misto was this tiny region, about 27 square kilometers, sort of wedged between Portugal and Spain.
Okay.
And it basically emerged from medieval administrative confusion.
Yeah.
Neither Portugal nor Spain could definitively say who controlled it, so the locals ended up effectively controlling themselves
For how long?
for about 8 centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And they enjoyed these extraordinary privileges because of this weird status.
Like what?
No military service to either country, no taxes paid to either crown, complete freedom of trade, which made it a bit of a haven for smugglers, naturally.
I bet.
They had the right to offer sanctuary to fugitives from both sides.
Yeah.
And maybe most remarkably, the citizens, the homens de acordo, could actually choose whether they wanted to be considered Portuguese or Spanish, depending on what was convenient.
You could just choose your nationality.
Depending on the situation, yes.
Yeah.
It even had its own peculiar little democracy. 3 villages took turns, providing the juiz, or judge, the leader, for a year.
This place sounds amazing, like something out of a fantasy novel.
It really was a true anomaly. A loophole in the map that lasted for centuries.
So how did it end? Did one side finally invade?
Nope, nothing so dramatic. Its end came not through conquest or revolution, but through sheer bureaucracy. Just paperwork.
Paperwork.
Yeah. In 1868, diplomats were negotiating the Treaty of Lisbon, which finalized the border between Spain and Portugal. They basically looked at the map, saw this weird little undefined patch, and decided it was time to, quote, tidy up the map.
Tidy up the map.
So they just drew a line through it, divided Couto Misto between Portugal and Spain, and that was it. 8 centuries of accidental independence ended with the stroke of a pen in 1869.
Wow. Europe's most successful accidental nation ended by tidy-minded diplomats.
Pretty much sums it up.
It really makes you rethink what a nation even is, doesn't it? And how borders get defined. What a quiet but kind of powerful testament to, well, self-determination by default.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's tackle something more complex now, and definitely important. A paradox in Portugal's history, its pioneering role in the Atlantic slave trade, but also, surprisingly, its pioneering efforts to abolish it. It's a difficult but crucial part of their story.
It really is, and it highlights the nuances and contradictions you find in history. It's uncomfortable, but important to face.
Right.
Portugal, regrettably, did pioneer the large-scale Atlantic slave trade.
Right, that's the part most people know.
But it also became the first European power to actually begin dismantling the system through various decrees. And often these steps happened decades before other major powers even started debating it seriously.
Okay, like what kind of steps?
Well, as early as 1570, King Sebastian, again influenced by Jesuit advisors, issued a decree forbidding the enslavement of indigenous Brazilians. Now, enforcing it was another matter, but the law was there.
Okay, 1570, that is early.
Then in 1595, Portugal banned the trafficking of Chinese slaves, particularly in Macau. And a really major step came in 1761. The Marquis of Pombal, the guy who rebuilt Lisbon after the earthquake, a very powerful, reform-minded figure. He prohibited the import of slaves into continental Portugal itself. Not colonies yet, but mainland Portugal.
1761, that's still significantly earlier than, say, Britain or France banning the trade.
Decades earlier. Now, we absolutely have to acknowledge the motivations were complex.
Sure, it wasn't purely altruism.
No. There were economic factors, political calculations, strategic reasons, sometimes related to conflicts with other powers over the trade, but the legal steps were taken. Portugal put these abolitionist laws on the books long before others.
It definitely puts their whole historical narrative into a much broader, more complicated context than just they started the slave trade.
Exactly. It's a history with deep shadows, but also these surprising early glimmers of change.
Okay, finally, let's bring in a touch of maybe espionage and glamour, the real-life inspirations behind James Bond, found in wartime Portugal.
Ah, Estoril, yes.
Yeah.
During the 1940s, World War II, neutral Portugal, especially the coastal town of Estoril near Lisbon, became this extraordinary, almost surreal hub.
A hub for what?
Refugees, certainly, but also spies. Spies from all sides, British, German, American, Italian, they all operated there.
Because Portugal was neutral ground.
Exactly. And Ian Fleming, who later created Bond, was actually there. He was a British naval intelligence officer at the time. He stayed at the very glamorous Hotel Palacio in 1941.
Okay.
And he spent time gambling at the nearby casino Estoril. He famously observed German and Allied agents literally mingling at the baccarat tables.
Mingling while their countries were at war.
Maintaining polite fictions, while discreetly gathering intelligence, making contacts. Apparently, different hotels were sort of unofficially divided by nationality, but the casino,
Yeah.
that was the unique neutral ground where everyone crossed paths.
Wow, like something out of a movie.
Well, it inspired one. Real-life characters operated there, too. People like the legendary double agent Juan Putol Garcia, codenamed Garbo by the British, who fed misinformation to the Germans. Even the actor Leslie Howard was involved in intelligence work there before his plane was tragically shot down.
So Fleming saw all this firsthand.
He saw the atmosphere, the characters, the tension under the surface glamour. And he drew directly on these experiences, the setting, the intrigue, the high-stakes gambling for James Bond. Casino Estoril itself is widely seen as the direct inspiration for Casino Royale.
That's incredible. So the birthplace of Bond, in a way, is this neutral corner of Portugal during the war.
In terms of atmosphere and inspiration, absolutely. It's fascinating how Portugal's pragmatic, maybe even cynical neutrality during the war allowed it to become this unique, glamorous, dangerous stage for real-life espionage that then fuels this massive fictional icon.
Just another example, really, of Portugal's unexpected place in global events and culture. So as we bring this deep dive to a close, it just seems really clear that Portugal's history is so much richer, so much more impactful than maybe we commonly think. We've uncovered some really surprising connections, haven't we? From ancient borders lasting centuries to Japanese food, British tea, Bond, all stemming from this, relatively small nation on Europe's western edge.
And I think that's the real takeaway here, isn't it? These stories, they really show how interconnected our world truly is, how small actions or these seemingly overlooked historical details can just ripple across centuries, across continents,
Yeah.
influencing global culture in these really profound ways. It kind of challenges us, I think, to look beyond the usual headlines, the grand powers, to find where cultural change really comes from. It proves that influence isn't always about size or military might.
Yeah, absolutely. In a world that can often feel, a bit predictable sometimes, Portugal's stories, its curiosities, they remind us that reality is often stranger, funnier, and definitely more interconnected than we ever imagined.
Well said.
Sometimes the smallest countries really do cast the longest shadows. And sometimes a rhinoceros really can change the way we walk through cities forever.